The comparison of the Red Bull RB20 with last year's RB19 shows how this year's car has not been dominant, with the competitors reeling it in, and apparently this had something to do with an illegal part of the car that has been silently removed by the FIA. How? A regulation change in the middle of the season. Red Bull is 132 points lower than this time last year, demonstrating the average competitiveness level during the 14 races held thus far, with the car also becoming more track-dependent, particularly after the Miami Grand Prix. The RB20's increased track sensitivity is startling, with Max Verstappen winning 4 of the first 5 races in a range of circuit layouts and circumstances. The only exception was the Australian Grand Prix, where he retired owing to an unexpected failure in the right rear brake which caused a fire. That dilemma might potentially be interpreted as a pointer to Red Bull's existing difficulties. The FIA changed Article 11.2.1 of the technical regulations at the end of July, after a majority decision by the teams. The old version read, "Any system or mechanism that can systematically or intentionally produce asymmetric braking torques on a given axis is prohibited." It's interesting that the article was rewritten, and the issue wasn't just handled with a technical directive, which is often utilized when a technical question is clarified in response to a team request. It is probable to conclude that the alteration of the article occurred when there was concern that a gap in the guidelines had already been exploited. In actuality, the most recent edition of Article 11.2.1 indicates that a team considered asymmetric braking at the beginning of the year, contravening the spirit of the regulations, but not infringing any. The most recent version states, "The braking system must be designed so that within each braking circuit, the forces applied to the brake pads are of the same magnitude and act as opposite pairs on a specific brake disc." Any system or mechanism that can systematically or intentionally produce asymmetric braking torques on a given axis is prohibited. But how does any of this relate to Red Bull? The previously noted fault in Australia provided a clue for the FIA experts to explore further. According to sources, the RB20 had an inertial valve fitted on the braking system part at the rear downstream of the brake-by-wire system up to the Chinese Grand Prix. In actuality, a valve with a T connection received a single hydraulic pressure applied to the rear axle by the brake-by-wire, but this pressure could be precisely directed to the left or right of the rear axle, depending on which direction the car was going into a corner. It is correct to note out that the inertial valve is not one of the components given to the team by the brake system's manufacturer, Brembo, and does not change the system's fundamental safety features. Furthermore, the inertial valve only serves a purpose when the car enters the corner entrance phase, because in a straight line, at the commencement of the braking action, the pressure between the right and left stays constant, with the sphere situated exactly in the middle of the T. However, it should be noted that the benefits of such a system are mostly focused on the car's handling. Cornering accuracy is absolute, and understeer disappears due to this. These are attributes that the RB20 has gradually lost since Miami, which no later improvements have been able to restore. Given the FIA's evident and diligent secrecy, there is no established evidence that this is what transpired. But the signs are absolutely there. In any event, if Red Bull had used such a system before the start of the season, it would have been perfectly lawful within the language of the technical regulations at the time, and there would be no basis for a FIA fine. But ever since the article changes, performance dropped, so fill in the blanks. In short, the RB20's reduction in relative competitiveness is not due to aerodynamic issues or extreme settings, but rather to a gradual rise in the importance of car dynamics. It's tough to figure out what the corrective actions may be, but our sources indicate to a different management of the setup and the interaction between how the front and back end speak to each other after the summer vacation. But only time will tell if this will help them. It is a conundrum for the engineers led by Pierre Wache, since it is extremely difficult to reproduce the operation of a system after it has been removed from a car, if it was ever there in the first place. What do you think? Could they really have deployed a hidden illegal strategy for their competitive advantage? After all, if it's not specifically in the rules, why not use it right? Next to these changes, Red Bull is also more than busy with its own power unit set to deploy in 2026, and Red Bull's head engineer, Paul Monaghan, feels the transition to a completely autonomous F1 manufacturer has the potential to boost the company beyond prior agreements with power unit suppliers. Red Bull will cut ways with Honda after the 2025 season in order to transition to a homegrown Red Bull powertrains power unit supply, allowing the F1 team to become totally autonomous as a manufacturer in terms of chassis and engine. Red Bull Powertrains (RBPT) was formed when Honda announced that it will depart F1 as an official supplier after the 2021 season. The Japanese firm powered Max Verstappen to the title that season, in its penultimate race as a manufacturer, and decided to remain in F1 as an unofficial supplier when an engine freeze was implemented, eliminating the need for further research and development for 4 years. With Red Bull needing clarity on its future power unit supplier for the start of the new regulation cycle in 2026, the decision was made to open its own facility at the team's Milton Keynes facility. And, in collaboration with Ford, the RBPT project has grown to the point where its first competitive offering is less than 18 months away from hitting the track in the back of a Red Bull F1 car. Red Bull head engineer Paul Monahan has been with the team for over 2 decades, and he has seen it powered by many suppliers, including Ferrari, Renault, and the current Honda supply. In an interview during the Belgian Grand Prix, Monahan revealed the enormity of the hurdles Red Bull has in getting RBPT up and running and completely integrated with the F1 team's other activities in Milton Keynes. If you looked at it as team plus PU supplier, we're changing PU, aren't we? The fact that you throw in a different set of regulations merely adds to the complexity, he said. The work I have seen between the Red Bull chassis side and the Red Bull powertrain side is as good, if not stronger, than I've seen with any of our power unit suppliers. While the Red Bull-Honda cooperation has been extremely successful, Monahan feels that as an autonomous manufacturer for the first time in its history, Red Bull has the potential to become even stronger once RBPT reaches its stride. We're very indebted and very grateful to Honda for everything they've done with us, but now we are all under one umbrella. I think the opportunity to be better merged with the power unit is one that we can't forget or give up or deny ourselves, he said. If we want to be as strong as we can be in 26, we have to make that project work. So the challenges are there, but equally, the scope to do at least as good a job, if not a better one than we've enjoyed with Honda, is there for us. Given that there is no turning back, Monahan stated that it is now entirely up to Red Bull to determine how competitive it can be in the future. A far cry from the Renault years, when the team's lackluster engine prevented it from challenging for wins, as team boss Christian Horner frequently pointed out at the time. I think we will all take it with both hands, and it'll have its troubled days, it will have its good days, Monahan said. That's our engine for 2026, and I think we can make it work. I think the people in the powertrain group are really committed to it. They're clever people working hard. The ball's in our court, isn't it? Monahan said, "It is tough to anticipate how 2025, the final year of the current regulations and the Honda power supply, would play out, since teams must evaluate the work put into the 25 car with aiming for a new start in 26. 2025? I don't know how people will treat the transition year into 26, he said. We can begin work on the 2026 car in the wind tunnel and CFD environments from the 1st of January. So, what will people do in terms of a 2025 car when it effectively lasts for 1 year into 26, I think will be influential on how good your 25 car really is. But people might take the view they want to put more time on the 26 car. Others, maybe one of our nearest opposition, might think we can really beat Red Bull in 25, and they might put more effort into it. That, I think, will make 25 a little more unpredictable. How difficult will it be? That's the bit I can't tell you, because how quick is our car relative to everybody else? If we start behind some others, we'll have to put some effort in. What do you think? Will this project become a success? Will Verstappen still be there to race with the first real Red Bull engine? And above all, in Monahan, right on 2025? Will we see a huge title fight next year, due to other firms switching focus to 2026? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.